Hey guys, I hope you're having a beautiful day. Before I start, I am Burcu. I do personal chart readings, and if you like my approach after listening this video, if you want to get a chart reading, please go visit my website, Mavi&Astrology.com, and I will be happy to serve the souls out there who is perspective to astrology is in line with my perspective and my approach. In today's video, I want to talk about birth charts. If you're interested with astrology a little bit more than your sun sign or birth sign or your rising sign, then probably you have seen a birth chart before. Mainly, I will be talking about one of the most common style birth charts, like circle shapes. And very briefly, I will explain how it is calculated. We're going to basics today. By the way, I use these terms interchangeably, sun sign or birth sign, but they mean the same thing. So we all have a sun sign, and probably a lot of people know their birth sign, even if they're not interested in astrology. Let's say I was born in May 16, 1995. I didn't, but for the sake of this example, let's say I was born on this day. And the day I was born defines my sun sign. And in this case, my sun sign will be Taurus, because we are in Taurus season from April 20-ish to May 20th. So how we define the sun sign in the birth chart is related to the zodiac constellation that we use. And there are different calculations to create a birth chart, and I use the tropical zodiac constellation, which has a long and ancient tradition behind it. In this system, seasons are being used to follow the zodiac. In a way, you can almost think the system as a fixed frame of yearly cycle. And in this zodiac system, equinoxes are being used as starting points. The reason I'm saying that you can think it as a fixed frame is related to taking March equinox or September equinox, taking those equinox days as fixed days to have a consistent frame and consistent circle of completion in the yearly cycle of the birth chart. Again, because we're using a fixed frame, equinox days, such as March equinox, are considered on March 20th all the time. And the first day of the spring in Aries, the first zodiac sign, always starts on March 21st. So when we use tropical zodiac and fixed equinox days, this creates a difference between real equinox days and that given year. But in terms of following the cycles, it gives us a consistent completion of 365 days. On the other hand, there is another system also being used to create birth charts, which is called sidereal zodiac. In this system, actual position of the stars and planets are being used. Because the sidereal zodiac calculations are based on the current positions of the planets and stars up there on the sky, there is a 23-ish degree difference between sidereal and astrological zodiac calculations. From an astrological perspective, tropical or sidereal are just different mathematical calculations of creating birth charts. It is from my perspective that the tropical zodiac gives more idea about the patterns of human life as an experience, especially if you're not following your life on a daily basis. Again, the tropical zodiac is about seasons, patterns, and following the patterns, but it's still related with planets and their forces in the universe. Of course, there is so much more in-depth information behind these calculations and using different zodiacs. And also it is important to know these things once you start interested in astrology with real depth. But I think in the beginning, this information will be sufficient to start. Just know that like using different zodiac systems for birth chart calculations are a big debate in the astrology world as well. And sometimes people use that difference just to talk down about astrology. But if you stay in this channel along the journey, you will understand that different methods are actually helping astrology to become deeper and richer. So going back to the birth chart, with all this information as base, your birthplace on Earth and the day you were born in that year helps us to place all the stars and planets positioned according to tropical zodiac. And this helps us to create the birth chart. Nowadays, all these nowadays all these things are done by calculated and done by computers, but back in the day people used to draw the birth charts manually by hand. And the time you were born helps us to position your rising sign. The whole chart's home placements and degrees are defined according to your rising sign. So what is rising sign? How do we define it? The simplest answer: whenever the sun was rising on the day you were born, defines your rising sign. So because the sun is rising from the east, and as you know, Earth orbit runs its own axis, and it completes that turn in 24 hours, and this creates day and night. We also have day and night in the birth charts. According to that, whatever the zodiac sign was on the eastern horizon on the day and the location you were born gives us your rising sign. So you can think of your birth time, more specifically, is the time of your entrance to the Earth. Now, there are two things happening in the birth chart. One is about the yearly cycle, which we define your sign and all the other planets and stars placements in zodiac. Then we also have on the top of that, the same birth chart of yours, we have the birth time. And now we're thinking your birth chart as a 24 hours completion of the 360 degrees. In the beginning, we talked about seasons and patterns on a yearly basis. Now we think of the birth chart, the same birth chart, as a 24-hour cycle. So in this case, our starting point of the chart is the entrance time of yours to the Earth and to the zodiac. Let's think of this dynamic from the original 12 zodiac signs placements. And we will look at it from the seasonal and yearly perspective first. So when you think the original 12 zodiac signs and starting point as Aries, Aries is the first sign, and it represents the spring and the new beginning, and it also rules the first house. And now we follow the counterclockwise on birth charts. So Aries started with spring, then summer, then fall, then winter, and the cycle completes. On a 24-hour cycle, we follow the clockwise direction on the birth chart, and 24 hours movement of Earth's rotation around its axis and relative to the sun. So in the original zodiac, Aries rules the first house, and this applies to the sun rising time. And this applies to you as well. On your birthday, your rising sign position is determined according to the sun's position on eastern horizon. In this case, if you were born somewhere from sunrise to sunset, then your sun stays on the top of the birth chart. And if you were born in the nighttime, then your sun stays at the bottom of the chart. But your rising sign just shows when the sun was rising on the day you were born. And our birth chart consists of 12 houses ruled by 12 zodiac signs. Sometimes some sign can rule 2 different houses. This is just a detail, but in any way, we all have 12 zodiac signs in our birth chart. And because of that, everybody has 12 house placements and 12 zodiac signs in their chart, which also means everybody experiences one way to other these 12 different zodiac forces and archetypes. How? First, our chart is in relationship with the transits, right? Although our birth chart is like a frozen of the time that we were born, and it shows the placements of all the planets and stars in our birth location on a given day of the year, everything still keeps moving in the universe in their own rhythm, even if after we are born. That's why our birth chart interacts with the transits. So going back to 12 zodiac sign, and everybody has those 12 archetypes in them. Even if you don't have any placement in that specific sign, we all also experience each house's affairs. At the same time, if we have a placement in, particular sign or the house, then that gives more information about our story. By the way, there are many different housing systems as well to create birth charts. And again, these differences are just different styles, calculations, and techniques. They all help us to read birth charts. And all these different calculations and techniques, I think, just shows us how rich astrology is. And we can discover layers and depths of just one birth chart through these rich versions of housing systems and techniques. So the combination of the placements of stars and planets and their relationship to each other is totally unique to us. Yes, even if we were born at the same location, at the same day, at the same time with many different other babies, because we all have different family lines, ancestors, and we have different souls. Therefore, how things place in our birth chart and how they play their role in our life is totally unique to us. And our birth chart gives us a story about our essence. It gives us a foundation. The more we study our charts, the more layers and richness we get. If we understand the foundation though well, then we can construct our life better on it. And the planets and house affairs are really there for us to construct this life the best way for our soul purposes. Because of all that, from my perspective, there is no right or wrong or exalted or debilitated position in our birth charts. But we may feel that way because we read something about that placement on the internet while we were scrolling things about it, or in the future you may read about that. But just remember, again, our birth chart is really related with our soul purposes. At this point, if you've never done before, I recommend you to go to a legitimate astrology website, such as like astro.com, and enter your data and pull out your birth chart. But please, do not read the general information in that website, even if it is given according to the placements of your chart. Even if you have that desire to Google things on your birth chart, I highly recommend it. Don't do it immediately. I know we all have been there, but this time, try not to learn everything on your chart in 15 minutes and figure out life. Instead of that, just look at your birth chart. Look at that circle. How amazing that. That's your circle of life. And it is uniquely beautiful and it is full of potential in front of you. It is waiting to be discovered by you. Look at all numbers and symbols and stars and planets on your birth chart. And then try to envision your birth chart in your mind and meditate on it. Intuitively just feel about and think about that's your astrological DNA. Realize how uniquely you've been created. You have your own alignment with stars and planets, and in between everything, you have your own space. And finally, I suggest that if you cannot resist reading something about your birth chart, just read about your rising sign. From a perspective of knowing that your rising sign shows your first and foremost motivation in life. Please read only about that. Before closing this video, I'd like to remind again, I am happy to present my service of helping you to read your birth chart. And to get more information, please go to my website, Mavi&Astrology.com. You can find the website name on my YouTube profile as well. And thank you for watching me. I'll see you on next video.